No. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get going here since it is time. Welcome. This is the road to level two from the middle of nowhere. And I'm going to largely talk about my journey and what I went through to become a level two judge, and kind of note how it was different in some ways from how a lot of other people did. But a lot of the things that I experienced, I think, are really important in understanding what it takes to become a level two judge. Here, I'm going to assume that first that you are likely looking to become a level two judge or looking to help others become a level two judge. And it comes down to, it's really broken down to a few main challenges that people have to overcome when they want to become a level two judge. The first couple are the things that we're all pretty familiar with. You got to have the rules knowledge, right? You're gonna take a test. You got to know how magic works. You got to get into layers, and you got to get into, kind of some of the more advanced rules of that. And then the other piece of this is policy knowledge. For the most part, there isn't a huge, the JAR is a pretty short document that when you became a level one, there were some questions on it. It's pretty straightforward. The IPG and the MTR are much more complicated documents, and they're a large part of becoming a level two judge. The other thing you need is you need to experience judging at competitive REL. And this can be a difficult thing both to get and to feel prepared for. So that's one of the big things, kind of big barriers. And then finding someone to provide a recommendation. In order to become a judge, you need a recommendation from a level two or a level three from a competitive REL event. And so you need to kind of set that up. That actually takes more than just going, oh, I'm going to apply to some events and maybe I'll get a recommendation. You actually need to go a bit beyond that. And then the big thing, and this is kind of what my presentation is about, is the drive. So if you want to become a level two, you have to choose to become a level two. You can't just sit there and be like, I kind of want to be a level two, so maybe it'll happen someday. That generally isn't how this experience works. So just a little bit about me. I consider myself a level two competitive REL judge. I don't have a store that I judge at. I don't judge regular REL, Friday Night Magic, pre-release, things like that. I have done a couple, but for the most part, that's not what I have done. I was certified in March of 2013. And at the time, I was living on a place called Lopez Island, which, as the name implies, is actually an island. I got certified for level two at the very beginning of 2014. So it took me about 9 months, 10 months to go from a level one judge to a level two judge while living on an island. I've worked at this point over 20 Grand Prix Magic Fests for Channel Fireball and Pastimes and Cascade and a number of other events as well. Right now, where I live, I've actually moved off of Lopez Island, a nearby island called Whidbey Island, which is not it's an island, but there's a bridge, so it's kind of like it's not a real island. But there is one judge within an hour drive of me. So I'm still like on an island figuratively and kind of physically, and yeah. And right now I'm about an hour and a half away from the nearest level two judge. So I don't really have a local judge community that I am a part of. And I didn't when I went to become a level two judge. I still did not have any kind of local judge community. Here you can see Lopez Island. That's the little dot there. You'll surrounded by water. That little dotted line going across there, that's the ferry. That's how you get from Lopez Island to what we called America, being the rest of the United States. It technically is part of the United States legally, I guess, but definitely not spiritually. I don't know. So you can zoom out a bit and you can see kind of how isolated Lopez Island was. Maybe some of you have noticed Bellingham. That actually has an airport where you can fly places. Still not a whole lot more there. And there we go. Now you can see kind of where I am in relationship to Seattle. So I wasn't near anybody. I wasn't near anything. There isn't even a store. There isn't a store on the island I was on. And I wanted to become level 2 judge. So let's look at what's required, because that's kind of the place to start. And so, so here's to give you an idea of my context here. Judge on an island. Lopez Island has 5 ferries per day. I would leave that island maybe once a month, and generally it was for a work-related thing. The nearest store cost $45 and took about 2 hours to get to, because we had to take a ferry, and those aren't cheap. The nearest competitive REL tournaments at that point were in Seattle, which was over 4 hours and would basically cost me about $100 round trip to get there and come back. The nearest L3, also in Seattle, and at that time, I had to be tested in person by an L3, which fortunately is no longer a demand placed on people. And so here you can see actually on where it says Whidbey Island right there, that's me, and that's one other judge that I certified and is now a level 2 judge. And so you can see there's not judges get down, that 23 is the Seattle area. Those are the other nearest level 2 or higher judges around the time that I got certified. So I was really out there. All right, so what does it take? Oh yeah, here's this was when there were 6 L3 judges at the time in the Seattle area. And again, I had to meet up with one of them to test at that point. So what is the road to level 2? What are the things that we have to do? What are the requirements to actually get there? So let's venture into the road to L2 dungeon. I know for some of you it feels scary, and you'll note I'm using the Tomb of Annihilation template here because that feels fitting for a lot of people. So first off, you have to be a level 1 judge. Can't just jump to level 2. No, you have to go through the dungeons in order, I guess. I don't know the word. You have to complete all the level 2 required courses. So that's that learn to level. You've got to do all the things in judge apps, and there's a bunch of courses that's kind of the base thing. If you want to be a level 2 judge and you haven't done those yet, you don't want to become a level 2 judge. Like, you haven't started the path. And that's the place to start, is here are the things I need to get done in order to do this. And go in there and start learning and start jumping into that. So the next thing is recommendation from a level 2 from a comp REL event in the past 12 months. Now, this is one of the questions that a lot of people struggle with. How many competitive REL events do you need to work to become a level 2 judge? And the answer to that is 1. You need 1. And I've met judges who have been working at Friday Night Magic's, pre-releases. They're in there 2-3 times a day as level 1 judges. They actually have more time put into judging than I do. They could conceivably go from a level 1 judge to a level 2 judge in a single competitive REL event because they have the experience doing it. Now, that's not the normal path. Usually, most people kind of go through the extensive training path where you work several competitive REL events and get yourself really skilled and then get the recommendation on an event. And then you have to pass the level 2 exam. The level 2 exam is open book timed test. And you'll see down here, it says for the final challenge, pass your level 2 exam, create a 40-10 test creature token with when this creature dies, you become a level 2. It's a 40-10 because there are 40 rules questions and 10 policy questions. And I know for some people, one or the other of those is the scary part. I'm really good at policy. My rules are not perfect. Like, that's my strength and weakness. And so when my test was being corrected, like, once I got through the rules questions, I knew I was solid on the policy side. So once again, how much competitive REL event do you need? You need 1 with another level 2 or higher judge. That's all you actually need, but more is definitely going to help. Okay, getting the experience of taking a competitive REL call is very different than just taking a regular kind of Friday Night Magic call. as far as you have a whole other piece to think about, which is what else do I need to do? The competitive, the policy piece. Is there a penalty that goes with this? Is there, do I need to write a warning? Do I need to, what needs to happen on that? What did I do? As a level 1 judge, I worked one old style PTQ. It had about 200 people. It was Thero sealed, I think. I worked one TCG States that was modern, and I worked in SCG Open. So those were the 3 competitive REL events that I worked before I tested for level 2. So the note I want to make about this is that a level 2 judge is one that is prepared to begin working competitive REL events, not one who is a master at working competitive REL events. You don't need to be the judge who has it all perfectly down as a brand new level 2. The distance between a brand new level 2 judge and an experienced level 2 judge is huge. It's a huge difference. You have level 2 judges who are team leading at Grand Prix, right? At Magic Fests. And you have level 2 judges who are still a little skitterish about working big events like that. So the idea you have to realize is that it's not that you are able to go free and you can run your own Magic Fest at this point. A level 2 judge is one that is prepared to begin working competitive REL events. So what does compensation look like? When you are looking to become a level 2 judge, it's primarily about the experience, not the compensation. And I want to give a little caveat on that, because some people have said, well, judges get exploited a lot and you shouldn't tell them that. I want to point out that as someone who was seeking to become a level 2 judge, my focus was what I was getting out of it, being the competitive REL experience. I still never work for free. I don't do that. I still want to make sure I'm getting a box. I'm getting paid for my time in some way. But when I worked the TCG States, I got a box. It cost me $100 to get to the show to work that, right? And all I got was a box. Like that wasn't about the compensation. It was about, I needed this experience to become a level 2 judge so that I could grow and I could actually learn more. So if a level 2 is a goal you have, you should expect to pay money to reach it. And again, I'm not saying you should be working judging for free, but it's going to cost you something. That may be money. It may be time. It may be, you're going to sit around and study. I remember just sitting there at night studying through, reading a whole bunch of stuff. It is something that the process, it costs you something to do. Now, one of the big questions kind of to start all this is, how do you get on staff for a competitive REL event if you've never worked a competitive REL event, right? This is an important thing to think about. It's like, how do I, you need an agent to get a movie deal, and to get a movie deal, you need an agent, and this kind of, but it's not actually that difficult. So I do have another presentation that I've given about cover letters. That's a big thing, but the first thing to do is to be visible. People who are judge managers for events are involved in the judge community for the most part. They're going to be they're on meetings like this, right? They're in conferences, they're on the Discord, they're reading the forums, they're in the local Facebook groups, talking to other judges, they're meeting up with judges whenever they can. So the first thing you can do is be visible. When I first applied for the first Grand Prix that I wanted to go to, the judge manager actually wrote back and said, "Hey, I see you've been active on the judge forums." He was aware that I had been involved in answering questions and learning, and of course wanted to support that. So first thing is to be visible and involved and doing things. The next is to get a judge photo on Judge Academy. I cannot stress the difference of you being a person versus you being that little amorphous circle shoulder blob. Because if you don't have a picture there, you are an amorphous shoulder blob like everyone else. And having a picture on there means at least you're willing to put yourself out there that much. And so that is a really important piece, is get the judge photo on there. If you don't have a picture in a judge shirt, put on a black shirt, take a picture, crop it from the neck up, and no one will ever know the difference anyway. Hold up a judge foil, or my first picture I had was like me holding a judge apprentice, or one of those birds that were going around for a while, and they were looking dorky, and that was my picture, and it was great. So get a picture on there. That's like one of the simplest, most obvious visible things. The other thing, make progress towards level 2. And when you apply, tell people you are making progress. If you say, I am looking to get on this event, I have completed all the level 2 courses. Well, that puts you ahead of every other level 1 who doesn't say that. Because if I'm looking to staff somebody for a competitive REL event, I want someone who knows competitive REL. And so just the difference between someone who has said, I've gone through all these classes, I've read the IPG, I regularly read policy updates, right? You probably aren't as known of a quantity as a level 1 trying to become a level 2, but these are things that you say, I am doing these things, I am moving forward. The next thing, and this is the cover letter piece, apply to an event as a professional. I always apply to an event as a professional. I am skilled at what I do. I put my best face forward. It doesn't care if one of my friends is running the event and I know I'm going to get accepted anyway. I'm still putting together a decent, quick, professional looking cover letter. Things to include when you are applying is, 1, I am looking for my level 2 endorsement recommendation. I would like to get paired up with someone who could give me that, okay? Or I've completed the level 2 required courses. One thing judges love making other judges. That's like the first thing. It's like they really enjoy, that's a judge, and then they also love seeing other people level up. So when someone goes, hey, here's where I'm at, I'm trying to get my level 2 endorsement on this event. Doesn't matter if it's the first competitive REL event you've worked, you're still trying to get your endorsement. Maybe you won't at that event, but you can be trying to get it. That's where you are working towards. I'm working to get competitive REL experience so that I can test for level 2. These things are important because they tell the judge manager, which usually isn't me, but the judge manager, that you in particular know competitive REL and are working in that direction. You are interested in doing and working and knowing competitive REL. And then the last thing is, you just don't be casual about pursuing level 2. When you hear there's an event, apply. You're going to get turned down. It's going to happen. But you know what? There'll be other events. Probably. I mean, it's hard to tell right now, but it seems like there's going to be other events in the future. So I'm just going to assume that eventually there will be events again, because I don't like to assume there won't be. So let's talk about rules knowledge. Okay, first place for rules knowledge is those Judge Academy courses. Okay, Judge Academy forums, Judge Academy Discord, right? All of those places. Rules knowledge, people are just going to be in and about with those. JudgeCast, I personally believe if you are not listening to JudgeCast, you are not trying to become a level 2 judge. JudgeCast is almost entirely about competitive REL and large events and things like that. So listening to JudgeCast is a really, really good way to hang out with a couple of brilliant judges who know their stuff and talk about it. And so paying attention, listening to that regularly, every time it came out, you want to be on top of that. Next, cranial insertion. Cranial insertion is still kicking and is great, and it still spits out a bunch of rules questions every week, and it deals with new issues from new sets, and it gets into the weeds in some of them. And right now, I think cranial insertion is probably the best source of just kind of constant rules questions that I've seen anywhere. And just go into Google, type cranial insertion, and that is amazing. That is also like run by judges, and mostly, I don't think entirely, but it is a great thing. So somebody's saying new YouTube channel, Judging for the Win, is very good. So again, another judge resource, Judging FTW. The Ask a Magic Judge forums, chat groups, IRC groups are still happening and going. You can jump into those and ask a question when you get stumped by something, and there will be people there who will answer, and you will get a response. And it is still a really good place when you know you have a question and you want to find somebody else. Remember, where I am here, I don't have anything. I don't have anyone else. I can't go into my local store and ask somebody because I'm the only somebody people have asked. So also, looks like there's a Facebook group, Ask a Judge, another place where just questions are going to come out. I used to just go into the Ask a Judge IRC channel and just sit there and read. I wouldn't necessarily like answer questions. I just have it like running, and questions would come up, and I'd look at them and I'd go, oh, what do I think that is? And then I'd see, did other people think what I had? And then if not, I would have to go look it up and dig into it. Magic Online. So I've had some people question this. I personally feel like I learned a ton by playing Magic Online. I don't feel the same thing necessarily happens with Arena, but in Magic Online, I saw how things happened in ways that I just didn't ever see them before. And I believe that playing Magic Online helps you encounter things kind of the way they should be. And by should, I mean like Magic Online is like 99.92% accurate in their rules. So like a couple of things are weird, but other than that, it's generally fine. And it's not going to teach you what you did right or wrong. What it's going to do is it's going to basically, you're going to run into things. You're going to be like, oh, how does this work? And then what you need to do is you need to actually adopt the role of, you're testing yourself at that point. You now have a judge call in the middle of your game, and you're going, okay, what's going to happen when I do this? And if you're wrong or you aren't sure why something happens, that's a trigger for you to go, I need to go look it up. I need to go understand. I either had the wrong answer or I had an answer, but I didn't know why. And you don't want to just be like, well, I guess I was right. So awesome. Let's move on. And then my final piece right here, you're doing it, the conference spheres, right? Getting in there, getting into conferences, because the amount of things that I hear at conferences, every time somebody says something and I'm just like, whoa, that's not how I thought that worked, especially as things change, rule sets change, policy changes, keeping up to date with that, listen to a two-headed giant one, because at some point, if you're working big events, you're going to be in charge of a two-headed giant event. And it's useful to have gone through some of those interesting scenarios. Do you need to know how absolutely everything in two-headed giant works? No, but you should have an idea. Plus, my experience in having taken tests and practice tests and all that is there tends to be some two-headed giant questions out there, so you want to be prepared for those. Policy knowledge. Now, I separate these two out because largely because I'm really good with policy and I feel like I can actually process it all. So number one, read the IPG and the MTR, specifically the annotated MTG and the annotated MTR. The annotations, basically, here's a line of policy, and then it goes into here's what that means and some why. Just, this is why we do this thing. And it's really, really good. Read through those. They get updated as the policies change, or when the policies change, when they start changing again. But read the annotated IPG, annotated MTR. I look up the annotated IPG and annotated MTR whenever I'm looking up the annotated IPG, whenever I'm looking up the IPG at all. The other thing I do is before every competitive REL event, I read the IPG. And I'll sometimes read the MTR, but I'll always reread the IPG because things shift around a little bit. Take the courses, retake the courses, go over the courses, especially some of the stuff on policy. It's really important to kind of get the exposure to that. So the two other things, release notes. When the release notes come out for a new set, you should read them all. If you want to understand what's going on, you should read the entire release notes that get sent out. They go, kind of item through item, and it does talk about how some of these things are going to function in policy. How are die rolls going to happen in policy? Things like that. Additionally, when policy updates come out, you should check those out. The Policy Perspectives blog that Toby Elliott has run, it's going to be updated again once we start having policy again. But every update that comes out there is something you need to read if you're going to work competitive REL events. It's not, I don't consider it like optional. It's, here we've made this change. Here's why we made the change. Here's some history behind it. They're not super long. They don't come out a lot, but they are really valuable to understand what's going on. Once again, listen to JudgeCast. Yeah, they go into rules, but I would say they probably spend about as much time on policy, or maybe even more time on policy than they do on rules. And that is another great resource. And then my final piece, oh no, that's MTGO's not, is Knowledge Pool. Knowledge Pool, I've heard rumors that it may be coming back. This was a huge resource for me if it does come back and people are posting questions. The way Knowledge Pool worked is I got to get my days right. Every Tuesday they would post a question, maybe it was Wednesday, and until Friday only L1s were supposed to respond to it, and then after that other people could. But they were all policy-related rules competitive REL questions. Yeah, one other piece that I think I meant to put this on the other slide. I just added this in. When you're playing on MTGO, play with all the stops enabled, and if you can, get into the beta where you can do their beta drafts, which are free, and have the weirdest cards in them sometimes. They usually take a bunch of the latest set and they combine them with a bunch of old cards that might interact in weird ways. And so it's a great way to get familiar with latest set cards combined with older cards to kind of understand how those mechanics might function together. I remember they were doing things like when Zendikar came out, you were able to pull things use cards in exile. They started putting in like rebound cards, and they started putting in a bunch of really weird cards to their beta so that you could see how all of these really strange interactions worked. So the other big piece, studying for the L2 exam. Studying for the L2 exam is a thing that, it's an exam. I studied for it a lot. I spent a lot of time studying for it, taking practice exams. So obviously the first thing, all the level 2 required courses. The next thing is, my advice is to read the section of the CR on keywords. This is section 702, and this goes through every keyword. What does lifelink mean? You might think you know what some of these things mean, and if you're a newer judge, you're wrong on something. I don't know what it is. In my case, what I was wrong about is I didn't realize that there were split cards that didn't have fuse. And so I remember way back, there was a question on that I got wrong because I didn't know that split cards could not have fuse, because this was Theros Return to Ravnica error, and every split card had fuse. And then they changed the rules on that again. So rereading that section, reread the IPG and the MTR. I don't tell people to go and just read the comprehensive rules. I don't think that isn't the best way. Personally, I know some people are like, no, I just pour through it. I love it. It's great. It doesn't help me. The keyword section was great. I dive in there when I need to, but I can't just sit and flip through the comprehensive rules. I can read the IPG and the MTR. So knowing the keywords was really big, and then this is my secret thing, is wherever there are judges talking, they're talking about things that are likely to come up on the L2 exam, because those are the kind of things they talk about. Policy questions about, wait, was that supposed to be a warning, or wait, what warning was it? Was it their second warning? They're automatically talking about the kinds of things that happen at competitive REL events. Just like go stand around judges and listen to them talk at an event, like don't creep on them, like that would be weird. But wherever there are judges talking and hanging out, they're talking about, oh yeah, I had this weird call, and like I was trying to figure out what, is this a hidden a hidden card violation, or is this really just a deck problem, or what really is the issue there? I feel like there are times where I could learn more just listening to a couple of really skilled judges just chat about whatever they're chatting about than virtually anything else as far as advancing my own knowledge. So, big thing here. This is the really big piece. This is what you need to look at. You have to set a goal. Okay, you have to say, listen, I want to become an L2 judge. If you don't say, I want to become an L2 judge, and set the goal of like, okay, here's what I want to do. In my case, I wanted to become a level 2 judge, and my plan was to test in January at the Grand Prix in San Jose, and that was my goal. And I actually got sidelined from that goal because the judge manager said he wanted to put me on the main event, and so I had to test before that, so I was already level 2 for that event. But like, you set a goal, and like, this is what I'm going for. I want to test, and I did end up testing in January. It was just early January, not late January. And then you got to sacrifice to make it happen. And I think it's important to realize that like, you're not gonna make you're not going to make a whole bunch of money trying to become level 2. You're not going to make a whole bunch of money as a judge generally, like at all, but you are going, so when you're going, okay, this is what I want to become a level 2 judge. It cost me money to do that. The first Grand Prix I worked was still when foils were the only compensation. I worked 3 days. I got a box, 2 boxes, and a set of they were pretty bad foils. We're talking, I think it was maybe $100 worth of foils. So for the 3 days that I traveled from Seattle, from Lopez Island down to Portland, I basically got $250 worth of total compensation. But I did that because I wanted to get the experience to become a level 2. I had to make the sacrifice for that. And so you have to set the goal, and you have to be willing. And again, I'm not saying that you should be losing money. I'm not saying that you should be putting yourself out to do it. If you don't have the money to spend on it, don't. I'm not saying that you have to, but I'm saying that my experience of getting to level 2, it did cost. It cost time. It cost time away from my family. It cost money in getting to events that I didn't necessarily make back at the event. I did have to sacrifice in order to make that happen. So if you want to become a level 2, here's the first thing. Go start completing those level 2 courses. Again, if you haven't done the level 2 courses, you're not on the road to L2 yet. Like, that's like, taking your first course is taking the first step, and then the next course is the next step. Like, until you've done that, you're not on the, I'm going to be a level 2 judge. Start applying to competitive REL events as they start existing again. Again, we're kind of at the end of this. They're starting. There's some that are out there. I know, I've gotten a few things. PAX looking for people. Gen Con looking for people. So you're going to start seeing competitive REL events come back. Start applying to them. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to get turned down. And then you won't have to go to the event. And that's probably what's going to happen anyway. If you don't apply to it, is then you don't have to go to the event because you didn't apply to it. So, but start applying. I do think there is something. If you keep regularly applying, even if it's the same judge manager, eventually they're going to be, well, let's give this guy a chance, right? He's applied to every event in the area. Let's see what he can do. And you come in there, you show yourself, and you can do a pretty solid job there. In my opinion, level 2 is less than 6 months away from pretty much anyone. Again, COVID being maybe an exception where that's a little bit more difficult for some people, but if you're going to start studying, you're going to start following cranial insertion and looking at the rules calls there. You're going to start showing up to listening to judge cast, going to these places where all of these judge questions are floating through. That's the that's if you're doing that, it's not going to take you more than 6 months, but you really have to sit down and go, this is what I'm doing. This is what's going to happen. I'm going to fight to make it happen. So if you need to reach me for any reason, there is my email. You are welcome to email me. I know some people were asking for a copy of this presentation, which I am happy to send out. But if you don't email me about it, I will not remember or know how to get it to you or anything like that. So what other experience have people had? What other tips do people have for becoming a level 2 judge? What other things have people run into? What other snags? What have been challenges that you've faced? Just looking in here, the suggestion of go to commander in person when feasible. Just play commander because you're going to have the weird rules interactions. Play judge tower. You want to have some fun? Play some judge tower. That, that gets awkward really fast because you run out of trying to figure out how everything works. So, for the most part, again, right now it's a little bit difficult as far as getting in touch with judge managers and TOs who run the competitive REL events. The big piece on that is you have to start asking one. We don't exactly have like regional coordinators anymore, but that was a person. We still basically have people who are going to operate in your local area like regional coordinators. They just kind of always have. Around here, we have James Lee, and like he's someone that people are going to go to if they're looking for judges. And so you need to find who those people are, because he's also going to be, a judge manager if some of the places around, or the head judge or the scorekeeper, if somewhere around here, Seattle area, is putting on a big event. Or you need to know, okay, who's the judge manager at Card Kingdom, and you can reach out to him and be like, hey, I'm a level 1 judge looking to become a level 2 judge. I'd love to work some events where you're at. Is there anything I can be of assistance with? Just starting off that conversation. But the big thing is when telling them you're looking to become an L2. That makes a huge difference. An L1 is a judge who can work F&M. Okay, there are L2s who are probably better than I am at working a competitive REL event, but I don't know that because they aren't L2s. If they are L2s, I assume they have a basic competency in running a competitive, in working on it at a competitive REL event. If they're trying to become an L2, they are trying to build a basic competency to become able to handle competitive REL events. So if you are not a known quantity, you want to specifically share the things you are doing that show that you have competitive REL knowledge. That is the biggest thing, because I could grab any random level 1 and put them on an event, and I don't know what's going to happen. But if I get a level 1 that is almost a level 2, right? They're working towards it. They're close, right? That's a huge difference. That means, hey, I know that, are they going to be perfect on everything? No, but have they read the IPG? I know they've read the IPG because they're trying to become a level 2, and you don't try to become a level 2 without, going through those steps. So showing what have you done to become a level 2 is one of the biggest things. And then, saying, I'm looking for my recommendation. Or, I'm looking for I'm trying to get one more good competitive REL event before asking for my recommendation. I've, completed all the coursework. I've, done these pieces. And that's going to make a huge difference in being visible and indicating that you're hungry, right? You're hungry for it. You're interested, you're engaged. So the key things there: be visible. Most judge managers are really visible. Know who's doing things, who's responding, who's active, who's posting, who's going to conferences, in these kind of things. And then so it's be visible, be hungry for it, and then show that you are when you apply. And you can reach out to a judge manager somewhere, even though they don't have events, and just be like, hey, I'm interested in working events. When you start having them again, I just wanted to make sure you had my contact information. That, things like that, getting that contact going is the biggest part. And then, keep an eye on judge apps, because they're on Judge Academy, because they're gonna start flowing in there. Cutie Mark with the information about Rules Day Tuesday. There's something being typed there. Rules Day Live. Okay. So we're magic discussion rules right there. So again, this is the lurk wherever judges are talking, right? Judges are going to be talking, and that is somewhere you want to be when that is going on, because they are going to you are going to learn things that you didn't know you didn't know. Because that is the nature of what happens when enough judges hang out. You find out things that you did not know that you did not know. All right, that's all I have. If anyone has any other questions, I'm happy to answer. Somebody sends me an email telling me to send them the slides, I'll happily share them to you. If nothing else, we've got enough time for a decent little break in here, but I'm going to hang out in case anybody has any other questions. But I will drop the sharing here.